SQL Server 2022 has the most T-SQL enhancements than previous releases. In this episode, learn all about them, see some code examples, and learn more with Bob Ward. This week on Data Exposed. Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman, and welcome to this episode of Data Exposed. We are continuing our SQL Server 2022 series. I'm joined once again by Bob Ward. Bob, thanks for joining us. You getting tired of coming on?
Not at all. Love talking SQL Server. Love being at Data Exposed for sure.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you on. I'm excited about this one because we're going to be talking about T-SQL enhancements. So do we still invest in T-SQL? Like, what happens here?
Well, let's remind ourselves, the Wheel of Power. We're on the final and fifth leg of the Wheel of Power. And yes, Anna, here's the thing. Developers want new features, but they don't want to learn a new language. You've told me that before.
Yeah.
SQL is a very powerful language. Why can't I take advantage of SQL Server putting some of that functionality and not force me to put it in my application? So we took a look at this in SQL 2022. We looked at what we've invested in the last few releases and said, we need to add some more into the engine, into the T-SQL language. So consider this. We're enhancing our support for JSON. That's for sure. Even producing JSON objects, JSON array, et cetera. We put a lot of enhancements into the core T-SQL set of functions, whether we're enhancing existing ones or adding new ones. We even have bit functions in SQL.
Okay.
I know, I'll have to show you some examples of those. And then this is interesting. If you have time series data that you're trying to process with your application, maybe not a time series database, but just time series based data, kind of like you've seen in Azure SQL Edge, we're bringing that functionality into SQL Server 2022 itself. So there's a lot going on here. As far as all these functions go, you can go in the documentation, see each examples. But what I thought would be kind of cool is if I showed you some code.
Yeah.
So instead of like showing you demos of this stuff, Anna, I'm going to flip over and show you. This is a local GitHub clone of my workshop.
Okay.
And in the workshop, we have a module for T-SQL functions. So, for example, for JSON, if I looked here, here's an example of how to produce a JSON object based on a query to SQL Server. One of the cool things about the exercises, if you go through our workshop, almost none of them require a database. You can just run these queries against either system table data or just like a constant variables. So not a lot of install required to try these. I mentioned about the core SQL surface area, things like string split. We've enhanced that. You notice my example here, Anna, that in this example, the Cowboys end up being always the best team in the way I've actually built the string. I don't know why that would be the case, right? But even look at this, like trim functions have been enhanced. A lot of the work we've done here, Anna, is about trying to be compatible with ANSI standards, but also kind of keep up with the industry you see in other database systems. So you see a lot of different examples here that you can try out. The other one is bit functions. I know that sounds kind of crazy. Anna, there was a time and a place where all I did was manipulate bits to do my job at Microsoft. Well, you can do it through T-SQL now. You can actually use bit functions to create mathematical calculations or even doing something that I call bit packing, where you take an integer value and you pack multiple values inside an integer value. It's very common practice to do in, say, C++ programming. You can do it all now in T-SQL. Pretty exciting stuff. And then finally, I want to show you about time series. So one of the things you can do is use time series to generate data, like time series data that you want to see in your system. Now, this is really important. I've talked to Kendall Van Dyke about this. He's an expert in this area, and that is what we call gap filling. So you may see telemetry data come from like a device that is going to be time series based, but sometimes these measurements, these devices don't produce data during certain time intervals. So if you're trying to build a system, how do you fill in the gaps instead of null values? You can use functions like first value to kind of like take the previous value and use that as your time gap value, making an assumption that that might be similar to what the previous reading was. So a whole gamut of T-SQL functionality. And if you use our workshop, you can go through and try all these examples yourself. Again, you can do it on Developer Edition, and you really don't even need a database to try them out.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I mean, things like JSON, bit, time series, like we're investing here because we're hearing from customers that they need this sort of thing. They're doing this sort of thing. Of course, we know like IoT scenarios are huge right now. So really cool to see that we're following along suit with that. Are these capabilities going to be in Azure SQL as well?
So that's the cool thing, right? This is the kind of stuff that's edge to cloud. So it's the T-SQL language, and this is going to show up in Azure SQL as well. Anywhere SQL exists, you can use this functionality. And think about this. We know you've invested your time with T-SQL. It's a skill you've developed. You don't want to lose that skill. You want to enhance that skill. And you don't want to build this code in your own app. Let the server process it for you and just use the power of SQL to make it happen.
Love it.
Yeah. What do you think?
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm going to go play around in the workshop.
All right, sounds good. Let me flip back over here, and just kind of summarize what we did a little bit here. So showed you, it is the most enhancements, by the way, in T-SQL than in previous 3 releases we've done. So we're pretty excited about the investment we put in there. We talked about processing JSON data. We have these new ANSI compatibility industry standard core SQL functions in there. And then finally processing time series data. It's a pretty good gamut of investment. I think you're going to continue to see our team really still spend time here because we really believe the T-SQL language is very important in the industry and to customers.
Awesome. That's great to hear. You know, Bob, we've learned a lot in the series so far. How do we get started? Where do we get hands-on?
You know, we've tried to provide some of the most comprehensive set of resources we've ever done to release SQL Server product, whether it's just looking at our docs, getting our PowerPoint decks that we do publicly that you can use yourself. We're open source presenters, as you know, or maybe read a book. There's a new book.
You wrote another book.
I wrote another book, yeah. SQL Server 2022 Revealed.
Cool.
475 pages if you want to take a nap on a Sunday, I guess, and go through all this information. We talked about the workshop. It's all open source. It's GitHub based. You can try it on your own. It's all free. Just use Developer Edition or Val Edition of SQL. We have mechanics videos. We have all the Data Exposed series. Also really excited, Anna, to see the Microsoft Learning Path. We got a Learning Path module that is launched as well. So yeah, a lot of information and resources for you to try out.
Cool. So if you want to learn SQL Server 2022, this series and all these resources are a great place to start. Bob, thanks again for joining us on the series. To our viewers, we hope you liked this episode. If you liked it, leave us a comment and let us know your favorite new T-SQL function. And stay tuned, and we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.